Now for those of you who are regular viewers of this channel, all 82 of you, let's get those numbers up, guys, come on. You might know that I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the Sam & Max games. In case you missed them, a little while back I took a look at the remasters of Sam & Max Save the World and Sam & Max Beyond Time and Space. Now something that I made abundantly clear in those videos is that I don't like point-and-click games. I don't like slowly walking around. I don't like having to decipher dialogue. I don't like having to click on everything around me just to see if it does something useful. And I especially don't like how Sam & Max's ideas for puzzles are some of the most insane bullshit to ever be conceived. Now let me make it clear, I knew what I was getting into with Sam & Max. I was mostly reviewing them out of curiosity, if anything. And as much as I didn't like playing them, they are still just point-and-click games. I mean, this is an entire genre. I can't exactly single them out for being the way they are. But, as someone who at least enjoyed Sam & Max themselves and other games, I so desperately wanted to like these games. I wanted to get through them on my own, so the fact that I couldn't just made the whole experience worse. It's a shame too, because by themselves I actually do like Sam & Max. I liked their whole buddy cop dynamic, I liked their jokes, I liked seeing them interact with all the strange stuff surrounding them. I just wish these two weren't in point-and-click games. If these games were maybe platformers or, hell, maybe even those move shit around kind of puzzlers, then I actually think I would have enjoyed them. Sure, there's this one VR game that seems pretty straightforward, although I'm not gonna lie, the last time I wore a headset I almost threw up. And if you really want to stretch it, the Poker Night games might count, which if they do, they're probably my favorite Sam & Max games. But what little exists apart from that are just more point-and-click games. It's how they've been since the beginning, in fact. I want to be a fan of them, but I can't. I think I'm just gonna have to accept that there isn't any purely Sam & Max thing that I can enjoy. But then again, those are just the games, aren't they? Yeah, technically Sam & Max started off as comics, didn't they? Having a whole 10-year run through the 80s and 90s. Well, I guess that's something I could maybe check out. But wait, that's not the only thing, is it? Yeah, on top of the comics, Sam & Max also had a show, a cartoon, simply called... You know what? I think this is what I've been looking for. A chance to indulge in the insanity that is Sam & Max without having to pause and Google something every 5 minutes. And now that I've watched the entire series, I'm here to talk about it with all of you. Now with that said, trying to actually explain this show is going to be harder than it sounds because there's only so much you can talk about. That is to say, there's literally so much you can talk about. There's too much. Sam & Max Freelance Police is one of the most unhinged fever dreams to ever be conceived for television. Like, I pointed out a bunch of weird shit in the games, but this show is on a whole nother level. Now, on the face of it, it's not actually that different from the games. Sam & Max get involved in some bizarre conundrum where they have to face an oddball villain or threat. You got things like rescuing refrigerator repairmen from a pocket dimension inside a freezer, or a school field trip to defeat a giant intergalactic janitor, or a covert operation to retrieve the police commissioner's bathroom keys from a war-torn Central Park. Also, don't you just love it when kids' cartoons reference Apocalypse Now? I'm sure the kiddies just loved the Marlon Brando squirrel.
We're Sam & Max, freelance assassins. Well, if you insist.
However, where the games would spread stuff like this over hour-long intervals, the episodes of this show are only like 10 minutes. There are so many blink-and-you'll-miss-it jokes.
Grab me by the ears.
You are aware there are children watching.
Just do it.
Dialogue.
It was someone not unlike the commissioner with all the intolerant intones of the commissioner who sounded remarkably like the geek and therefore could very well have been the geek.
You have the long black hair growing right out of your nose.
Characters.
I am warning you.
Look, Max, it's one of those colorful oldsters.
Plot points.
It's more women.
All's well that ends well, Max. The world is safe and the mole men have found true happiness.
Like, it is total overkill. This is a show that if you're going to sit down and watch it, you better fucking watch it. Otherwise, you're gonna end up breaking the back arrow on your keyboard after 5 minutes. I will admit that when going from the games to this show, it does feel kind of off when you're struggling to remember everything you just witnessed. The fact that the episodes in the games are a lot longer just means they're able to spread it all out in a way you can process it. It more easily sticks with you that way. Now, to the show's credit, I don't think it really cares how much of this sticks with you. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's banking on you not remembering much so as to keep you rewatching episodes. In that sense, the overblown writing here does kind of work. Now, I'd be lying if I said I prefer this to how spaced out things are in the games, but it does still have its own appeal that I can tolerate just fine. I will admit, though, there is something from the games that I straight up just miss here. Now, I know what you're thinking, and no, it's not the different voice actors. I mean, sure, it was pretty jarring at first, but I feel like this is just kind of a regular thing when you have different versions of characters. I mean, let's be real here, Sam and Max are no Bugs Bunny. I don't think you're gonna see people in an uproar over these two sounding different from time to time. That isn't to say it wouldn't have been nice to hear David Nolan and William Caston here, although I guess in this case it would make more sense if it were Bill Farmer and Nick Jameson, but I can live with these voices not sounding exactly the same across the board. As long as the voice fits the personality of the actual character, I think you're in good water, and that's pretty much the case here. The two they got to voice Sam and Max here, Harvey Atkin and Rob Tinkler, do a fine job matching how the two are supposed to act. Sam still sounds like his usual upbeat analytic self, and Max still sounds like a narcissistic nutjob ready to cut a bitch.
To safeguard American businesses, Max. That's why the heck we're doing this.
And because we get to wave these around!
No, that goes without saying.
Actually, little side note, I think Max might be more psychotic here than he is in the games. Like, I definitely got he was a narcissist there, but I don't know if I could say he was that crazy. He would more often just say insane stuff than actually do it. I totally got the impression that he was a psychopath here. This is a creature that acts purely on impulse and will do the most insane shit every episode.
Curse you, Sam and Max! Wretched rapscallions! Well, that just burns me up.
What, that he can say rapscallions without laughing?
No, because he got to go first.
Anyway, the voices from the games aren't what I miss. What I do miss are the number of reoccurring characters from the games. Now let me make it clear, I was aware this show was before the two games I played. As much as I liked Sybil and Bosco and the Mariachis, I'm not gonna knock this show for excluding characters that didn't exist yet. With that said, the fact that the games had reoccurring side characters at all just kind of made each episode more interesting. The way they were written in there made for this fun mix of episodic stories and overarching plots. You could just focus on whatever new villain is introduced each episode, but you could also catch on to things like Sybil's ever-changing relationship with the head of Lincoln, or Hugh Bliss's secret plan to hypnotize the world, or the Mariachi's time travel abduction conspiracy / birthday song side gig. This cartoon isn't really like that. Just about every other character here shows up once and then never again. So you don't really have that aforementioned mix, you just have an episodic series. Now I know what you're thinking, what about the geek? That prodigy tech whiz who gets mixed up in Sam and Max's cases. She's a reoccurring character, she pops up every now and again, and don't get me wrong, I think she's fine. A good straight man to work off of Sam and Max's wild antics. But she's not really the same as everyone from the games. There isn't any ongoing thing with her that you can catch on to throughout the series. I guess there's also Sam and Max's nerdy fanboy Lorne, who honestly doesn't show up enough to have any real ongoing side plot. I also can't forget the episode where a bunch of villains throughout the show team up against the two leads, but that's more of a trope if anything. I guess what I'm really trying to say with these characters is that they don't make for a more serialized show. Now this isn't to say there's anything wrong with a show that's episodic. That's like 90% of cartoons, I think. I also don't mean to say that having a serialized show is automatically better than self-contained episodes. What I'm really getting at is what the games did of having episodic stories while hiding ongoing plots behind side characters, I just thought was something you don't often see in media. It was an added element to the game's story that went beyond just being weird. This show, however, is just trying to be weird. Not to say I don't enjoy that, but it is just that. You know, it's funny. The main reason I wanted to watch the show is because I didn't like playing the games. And yet now that I have watched it, I honestly prefer the story of the games to the show. I mean, I still liked the show, but I can't help but like the games more for how everything there unfolded. There was more to it than just being weird. Because of this, I suddenly have to ask myself this question. Do I prefer the games because I liked the actual story and characters there more? Or do I prefer this show because I don't have to do some impossible mind games? I mean, I guess the most obvious answer is just to watch playthroughs of the games, but I'll be honest, I kind of just have a thing about doing that. If it's supposed to be a game, then I want to actually play it, not watch it. Well, I mean I watched it for these games, but I didn't want to. I guess I shouldn't really be caught up on this because, at the end of the day, this is still Sam and Max. It's still funny, it's still weird, and frankly, I'm just happy I didn't have to like the games to still like them. Now to wrap this video up, I want to briefly go into this show's run on TV. Remember how I said I watched the entire series? Well, that isn't really saying much because it only lasted one season. Yeah, this show didn't even have a full year run before being cancelled. Surprisingly, all I could find on what exactly happened is this old interview with Sam and Max's creator, Steve Purcell. Purcell? Duracell? He doesn't actually say much about it, just that it probably came down to personnel changes over at Fox or something. According to him too, the show was pretty well received and had a fair amount of people watching it. So the fact that it didn't get a second season might have been a missed opportunity on their part. I'm normally not obsessed with stuff like this, but in this case, I kinda feel inclined to because of the last episode. After the aforementioned villain team-up, Sam and Max talk to each other about the uncertainty of future adventures now that they've defeated them for good. This cannot have been a coincidence. It had to be some kind of last-minute message to the audience that they demand the show keep going. I mean, hell, in that same interview it seems that Steve Duracell would have liked for the show to continue. It makes this final scene like a cry for help from him and his people. It's kind of sad, actually. Needless to say, though, it didn't work. And after nearly 30 years, there doesn't seem to be any word on the show coming back. It's a shame, but honestly, what can you do? I mean, let's be honest here, we should be thankful this show existed at all. As far as I can tell, the audience for Sam and Max is pretty niche. I can't imagine it was easy for this show to be picked up in the first place. Personally, I'm pretty content with what we have already. It's like I said, I'm just happy I don't have to like the Sam and Max games to still like Sam and Max. If you enjoyed the video, then please subscribe, leave a like, check out the channel, and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Take care.